show in the world. Every Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. CST, live on Facebook and YouTube. Join us as we discuss pertinent issues that relates to you and I with your host, Alinko. You're listening to the Progressive Mind Show, your number one community building show in the world. Every Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. CST, live on Facebook and YouTube. Join us as we discuss pertinent issues that relate to you and I with your host, Alinko.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Alinko. We're glad to be coming your way again. Today is March 30th, 2022. It's Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central, and you will bet we're gonna be here. We'll do our best to be here to serve you. We did it. We had to do a replay last week, so we missed a live show. But we're here to continue the conversation on the family structure in the Black communities. And as you all have seen it, it's played out live on one of the biggest stages, if not the biggest stage in the world. And we all saw it. It's all tied to family values. And so at least this moment give everyone the opportunity or give everyone an insight to see the importance, the strength that lies within the family structure. So in a minute, we would like to touch on that. We encourage everyone to share the feed on Facebook and on YouTube. We are also live on Twitter. At this moment, we're being carried by Afro Star radio station. Afro Star is an online Pan-African radio station on the East Coast of the United States. We are live currently on their Facebook. We are cross-posting on their Facebook page and being carried live on their radio station. You want to listen to Afro Star? It's a 24-hour radio. A lot of reggae and Afrobeat if you're a lover of that genre. Again, share the feed as we go straight into. Before we do that, I would like to introduce my co-host for today, Michelle O'Kennard. Michelle, wonderful evening. I know there's a lot of expectation today, right?
Absolutely. I'm really excited and looking forward to getting into today's discussion. I too am a parent. I'm sure our fellow audience members are as well. So I think this is going to be a really great insight to the family movement.
Awesome. Before we continue, we will take Captain Mike's segment, which is health, sports, and fitness update quickly. We'll come back after that, and the discussion for this evening will continue. We urge you to be part of it because this is a community building platform. So you and I have to dialogue. You and us have to dialogue on these matters, subjects that matter to us. Captain Mike, I know you've been waiting. Please go ahead. We have you on mute, bro.
Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, looking at our current weather, Midway Airport, 61 degrees, winds are out of the southwest at 10 miles an hour. We have overcast skies and rain. So this week, get used to the rain and cooler weather and some snow. So let's take a look at our forecast for the rest of tonight. A low of 45 degrees. Winds are going to be out of the south, 10, 15 miles an hour. That'll keep us above freezing. Tomorrow, high of 40, low of 32. Going to start with some rain. It's going to be really windy, so hang on to your hats. Gusts up to 20, 30 miles an hour. Start rain, and then a mixture and maybe into some snow for Thursday. Friday, we're going to get a break from some rain. Winds are out of the northwest at just about 5 to 10 miles an hour. 45, low of 32. Saturday, another bad day. High of 42, low of 36. Rain and snow mix. Winds out of the south at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Sunday, and partly cloudy skies and 55 degrees, not too bad. That's going to be the best day of the week. Monday, back into the rainy season, 50 degrees. Tuesday, 52, low 41. Wednesday, going to have another mix of rain and snow, up to 45 degrees. So it's March. What are you going to do? Looking at our sports tonight, we have the FIFA qualifying matches between Costa Rica and the United States, Jamaica versus Honduras, Mexico versus El Salvador, and Panama versus Canada. And again, one Legion Cities 1, Ashanti Gold 4, Real Tamaliu 0, Choke 0, Dream FC 0, Beckham U 0, Elmina Sharks 2, Elvin Wonders 0, Great Olympics 2, and Wafa 2. And tonight we're going to talk about health and fitness. We're going to get into 10 ways we can deal with work-related stress. The workplace can be highly stressful with work overload and time deadlines. Stress effects, you can have headaches, shallow breathing, difficulty sleeping, anxiety, and it can make you easily irritated, impatient, and even depressed. So what can you do? 1, check reality. The situations usually aren't as bad as you think they're going to be. 2, you can imagine your time in workplace. Imagine yourself somewhere nice, a beach or something. Take time off. Don't overstress. 3, don't overschedule. Make it realistic. Tell your boss, hey, there's some things I can't do, or I need help. 4, take a break every now and then. Take an hourly mini break and stretch your muscles. That helps out a lot. 5, repeat yourself in a plan for rest time. Focus on your breathing, meditation, if you will. 7, visualize, imagine yourself somewhere really, really nice. Again, that's very important. 8, breathe slowly and deeply for 4 seconds count. Breathe in 4 seconds, hold it 4 seconds. Breathe out 4 seconds, hold that 4 seconds. That really does work. Trust me on this one. 8, eat healthy and exercise regularly. I don't do that. 9, communicate. I need to communicate with your friends. Talk to your friends and get a real check and try to hang out with your friends. See them every once in a while. Make plans. And last but not least, if you need help, get help. Maybe a mental health professional can help you to work out your stress at work and help things get better. And on that note, Sina, we're going back to you.
Thank you, Captain Mike. We really appreciate the updates. We are going to be looking forward to hearing more, getting some new updates from you next week. Really, really want to appreciate your time here. Before you go, again, my take on what happened on Wednesday before, and I did like to get your perspective. So everyone saw what happened.
What happened on Wednesday?
Well, not on Wednesday. I don't know. Was it a Saturday or Sunday? But it happened. Will Smith slapping of Chris Rock. Don't pretend, bro. You. But the incident that happened on, forgive me, I'm forgetting the day that it happened. The incident that happened between Will Smith and Chris Rock. And I'd like to say this: that the notion, and I've had this conversation and back and forth with friends. The notion that if a man expresses his emotions or reacts due to his emotions or reacts due to the fact that he wants to protect his family shows the stability in his emotions or shows weakness, for me, I think is fallacy. Look, in nature, excuse me to say, even animals have that instinct to protect. If you've seen 2 dogs or 2 cats, male and female, and you try to attack one, there is that natural cause for protection as long as there is a relationship. Now, I'm not comparing humans to animals, but what I'm saying is that it's a natural cause. It's a natural instinct for one to protect, to want to protect their loved ones. And as men, and I always say this to my friends, anything that is within a man's jurisdiction, he feels obligated to protect. I think that is a natural thing. It's a God-given thing for men. And so that instinct to protect has always been there for men and will always be there. Now, Will Smith is a man. He is a father. He is a husband. And this man has proven over the years to be someone who deeply loved his wife. Now, a lot of people would argue that his wife did him some wrong, or his wife does not qualify to deserve, or this wife does not deserve all that protection that Will Smith is claiming to give by his action. But the thing is, if a man decides that I'm going to be with a particular woman, regardless of her mistakes or her faults, that is his prerogative. And it behoves on anybody to give that man that respect. Whatever internal problems they have, they will deal with it. but do not disrespect the man because, or do not take the credit of him trying to protect his family away from him because you think that the woman has done some things or has done some wrong things or has not lived up to an expectation. So all I want to say is that notion or the act of Will Smith standing up for his wife is approved. The fact that he hit the man and assaulted him physically, I don't approve of that. There are so many ways he could have shown his distaste or his protection for his wife by yelling as he did afterwards, or going upstage and saying, bro, I need you to apologize to my wife, or I need you to start playing with my wife's health. Because mind you, this woman we are talking about also is suffering from a medical condition. Her hair is not that way because for her, she feels it's fashion and she wants to keep it that way. She had to deal with that. And now, mind you, anybody that is going through any type of health or ill health situation suffers internally. Now, sickness or ill health affects you in different ways. It's emotional, it's physical, it messes with your psyche, your confidence. It affects people in so many ways. And so if a woman is already dealing with that, and then she also has gone through a lot of challenges with regards to her family, and you're gonna pick on her in that manner in front of everybody, in front of, you're picking on her, you're picking on her looks, you're picking on her hair, you're talking about her health condition, because she is not going to find it funny. Nobody, and more so a woman, would find it funny if you talk about her looks in a very funny way. If you are being condescending about her looks, I don't think they might laugh just to make a show of it, to be politically correct, but it is not funny. It will not be. Nobody will be happy with it. More so when they are not. Also when there's an ill health situation that she has to deal with. And then thirdly, if a man and a woman are in a space, there's a moral obligation for you to give that respect for their space, and not to pick on a man's wife the way that Chris Rock did. And obviously, Chris Rock, well, there are these messages on Facebook or social media saying that he has apologized. Some are saying that those are not his words. But I really wish that Chris Rock will understand that he crossed that line that he wasn't supposed to. You make joke of anything, but don't be sensitive. You have to be smart and wise to not pick on certain sensitive issues when it comes to people, especially people as important as, Will Smith is a great guy. He may have his flaws, but this is a man who has gotten to the pinnacle of success. So you ought to recognize that, in as much as he may have some flaws. So I think that he took an action. His instinct was, I got to protect my woman, I got to protect my family, I got to protect my space and my manhood. And I think that in that moment, because of what he may be struggling with, he overreacted. And so slapping him, I don't condone, but the act that he stood up publicly to let the whole world know that I don't care about Oscars, I don't care about the stage. What I care most is my family's image. I think that it's respectable, and I'm not going to condemn him from doing that, but I'm going to say that it is wrong that he hit a man publicly that way. Whatever it is, you could have said your piece without hitting the man. That is my own take on that on the Progressive Mind Show. This is what I believe as a person, and this is what the Progressive Mind Show stands for. We stand for family values, and this is why I am saying my piece. Now, I wanted all of you to add your voice if you want to. Captain Mike, I know you have to go, but please quickly say your piece before you leave us, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I got a couple thoughts about it. One, the joke from Chris Rock wasn't that bad. He was comparing G.I. Jane. Think of the original movie. I forget the actress that played attractive woman, shaved her head for a role that needed physicality and a woman overcoming odds. So I know I'm thinking too much about it, but hey, that wasn't a joke about her looks or demeaning her. And secondly, I don't know. I think Will, his image lately, there were a lot of memes about him crying and not kind of being too much of a man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I had anything to say about that in that manner, but you know, he needed an image change. And right now everybody's talking about it. And because and on that same level, you know, had it been The Rock or even Dave Chappelle, who now is a different kind of person, would he have attacked them? I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm kind of thinking not. But I don't know. I'm not going to get too wrapped up in it because you know that it wasn't as horrific or the bigger deal that everybody's making it out to be.
Okay, cool. Let me hear your take, Ivory, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So I actually didn't watch the awards. I don't want to speak on the joke. I don't know how bad it was. And I've been too busy to catch up on it, so my bad. But as far as, you know, just having an understanding of a high level of understanding of what happened, I think I agree that violence is never the go-to. So I can't, you know, say that his actions were, you know, Will Smith's actions were justified or anything. I do believe that he was defending his wife, but he has to understand that, you know, you're dealing with a comedian. So there's other ways to handle it. So, you know, as far as any kind of punishment, I know people were talking about he needs to not be able to go back to the awards for a while. He should have been escorted out. I don't think that, you know, it's in us. It's for us to determine what kind of punishment. I think Chris Rock, you know, if anything, he's the one that should say, hey, you know, I just want an apology, or I want to press charges. Hopefully that's not the case. They want to press charges. But yeah, I mean, I just think overall it was just like an unfortunate situation that they had to, as Black men, you know, display that on TV and in front of people. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mrs. DEIDRA.
I have so many thoughts about that, and I do get pretty deep on it. You know, I'll say that, you know, it's unfortunate that we bear witness to people at his caliber with so many eyes and so many hearers and so many seers. And it's unfortunate that we bear witness to something like that. You know, I do think a lot about the family structure. I think a lot about maybe pressure that he is under, that we saw a breaking point. Now, while I do also agree that you know, the primary role of a man in a family is to protect his family. Protect her from what? Was she in danger imminently? I don't know. I don't think so. And while, you know, I think we as women have a lot of influence in how things turn out, right? So had Jada also, for me, Jada also had an amazing forest green or hunter green, or some might argue army green dress on, and she had a beautiful bald head and she was stunning. So for him to say G.I. Jane, I kind of agree with Captain Mike that I didn't think it was that bad, but understanding that we all have different sensitivities and tolerances. But had she maybe reacted, think about this, had she maybe reacted and like stood up and like was like, yeah, you know what I mean, and gave that energy, would the circumstance and outcome have been the same? Probably not. I do also agree that it was probably hard for Will to look over and see the brokenness of his wife. And I think, unfortunately, like we talk about Kanye and others, I think we witnessed a breaking point that's unfortunate, that probably does speak to more family dynamics that we either hear about or, you know, can only imagine and don't know about, or that also exist in that.
Thank you so much, DEIDRA, for sharing your opinion. Let's hear from Dr. Lockhart.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about this, so I'll keep it brief, though I think this could be an entire show, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I'll start with, you know, this idea, two things that really came initially was kind of, you know, the whiteness of it all chiming in, and with this violence is never the answer kind of take. And I think, first of all, that's just frankly not true, right? I'm not a violent person. I've never been in a fight You know, my sister has a saying, you know, that people aren't going to stomp a grape in the name of wellness. That's me. So I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that violence is the answer, but there are times, right, when violence is an answer. Someone is attacking your child and you are trying to save them, or, right? So, you know, these like kind of binary ways that people are showing up to critique, and particularly white people who are showing up in this incident that happened without a lot of context. So that's the first thing I noticed. And I really just, if there are white people listening, to just fall back, you know, whatever trauma or, you know, activation point you had that came up from this, I don't deny that, but that's something you need to work out in your space, because this truly is way more nuanced than what you saw in the awards. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think there's so many layers to this. I caution anyone from saying that the joke wasn't that bad. I think we're going to talk a little bit about trauma tonight, and what we know about trauma is what is harmful to me is not harmful to other people. And the reactions to trauma are disproportionate, and to everyone else looks like what is going on. And so we have Chris Rock, when we're talking about violence, that was violent, what he said. As a person who suffered with alopecia, I lost my eyebrows. I've lost plugs of my hair. It may seem like the smallest thing to you, but when your eyebrows are falling out and you literally have nothing there, and you wake up and see that every day, and then someone makes a joke that they think is small, it's a big thing. So I don't think it's appropriate for any of us to make assessments about how big or how much that might have hit him or Jada. I kept thinking, I don't know what she's seeing at home. Has she been, you know, balled up on the floor, embarrassed about having to shave her head? And yeah, now she's like, you know, I don't care, I'm shaving my head, but that may have been a path to get there, right? And so I say that first. So I don't think we should critique however it hit him or her, because we just don't know. You know, paper cuts for some people feel like a, you know, large knife, and for other people it feels like nothing. So with that, what I believe we saw was Will Smith responding to trauma. And I'm not arguing whether or not that was right. Like, you shouldn't be hitting people, right? Like, and I think that's where people get caught up in, like, well, it was wrong. It was wrong. I don't want to argue that. You shouldn't be slapping people unless, you know, you're defending yourself. They're slapping you. They're beating your child up, you know. But that's not the argument I'm making. I'm asking, can we give grace for humanness, right?
Yeah.
And so he had a human moment.
Yeah.
He's been mostly straight-laced until now, and then he has this moment of humanness. And then what did everybody do? Descend and have no capacity to say, yeah, I've had a moment where I wanted to slap somebody and I had restraint. That's me. But everybody may not have that. And so I can entertain that maybe that second day I would have not had that restraint. Right. And so the conversation for me is more about, how do we engage when we Black people, and particularly Black men, harm each other? And what does that conversation look like when really we've hurt each other, and we can say that and not get physical and say, like, dude, that hurt me, that hurt my family. Like, why are you doing that? If he had gone on the mic and done that, Chris Rock would have looked like the smallest person.
Yeah.
I don't judge him or throw him away or toss him aside for that. Chris Rock never should have said it. He's not unaware of hair in the Black community for Black women.
Yeah.
And he did that anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Captain Man, we got your view. So before we go to Michelle, let's hear from Dr. TAIWO. Sorry, Attorney TAIWO. My brother, your mic is muted.
Thank you very much for insightful contributions. First, I would like to say that he that has no sin, let him cast the first stone. We do overreact, we do stuff, and I'm particularly opposed to cancel culture on the basis of what people have done or on or a public misdeed. As far as I'm concerned, Will Smith made a mistake. He had apologized, and I think that we should pick the lessons and move on from there. We have to believe that he was sorry for the action that he did. Then again, as to the joke that necessitated or precipitated the event we are commenting about, let me quickly say that if somebody cracks a joke with me, if I say I don't like it, it does not lie in anybody's reaction that he comment. And again, I say that joke that somebody cracks to say that it's just a joke. I don't have to like a joke. I may like a joke yesterday, I may not like it today. And so for me, the way I process things, the way I receive things must be respected. If you look at that clip, when that joke was cracked, Will Smith himself was laughing until the wife looked at him, and he looked at the wife and he saw that the wife was displeased with that joke. It was at that point that he stood up to do what he did. But for me, if we sit here to apportion blames to those what someone did or did not do, that particular disposition in itself wounds the society more. So I think that we should be looking for healing for all the parties involved. So for me, I think what we need to do is to learn the lessons as humans who are living within a social space, who understand the implication of everything that happens, because when something happens, there will be all kinds of interpretation. Conspiracy theory will come in, a whole lot of things will come in. So for me, I look at it strictly from the human angle, which is the fact that someone said something that someone was not happy with, and the one who was not happy had the right to be unhappy. The one who was not happy had the right to defend his family. He has a right. As a matter of fact, it's a duty. Then the one who the one who said that thing is also human. The one who slapped is also human. So at the end of the day, humanity learns from everything that has happened, and we move on. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Well, I think everyone has made some excellent points. I think the first thing that I wanted to lead with, Dr. Kerri Lockhart, you made a comment about Chris Rock and just understanding the sensitivity around the topic of hair, especially as it pertains to women of color. And so I believe Chris Rock did do a documentary some years ago about Black hair and about processing that hair and the weave industry and things of that nature. And he was actually kind of championing, shedding light in that area. So to make, that kind of comment, it makes me wonder too, his real intentions. I think he was being malicious. Two, I really am, I understand, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about Jada, but if we look at it in the sense that she is a woman of color, and a lot of people, this is a common term, that the most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. And when a Black woman is being defended, and her honor is being defended by her protector, there is like an outcry or an outrage. I'm not saying that Will should have hit him, but I'm going to get to that point next. My point is, we need to normalize protecting Black women. And I feel as though that if Chris Rock was bold enough to get on that national stage to embarrass her and make her the butt of his joke so that he can perform and get pats on the back by our white counterparts, then he should be able to take the rebuke that comes with it. Now, as far as Will goes, I just want to say, I think that it is his decision on how he responds. And it is his decision to take the consequences that go with it. I think he had an emotional moment. He got in his flesh, and everything did not matter. What mattered was his protecting his wife's heart and her honor. And I think he just acted in a moment of passion. But I also think that he was very, very courageous. It takes a very courageous person to actually act out and execute and communicate effectively as effectively as he did, how he really felt, and he owned that. And even when he accepted his award, he had tears running down his face. He had a moment of vulnerability and transparency. And he really, really, we have seen Will Smith evolve into an emotionally mature, he's on that journey. He just released the book. So he's in a very vulnerable place. And I just think that even though we don't want to see that type of thing happen on a national platform, especially in our community, and I get it and I agree with that, I also feel, again, that it is his decision to execute how he feels within the scope of what is right. But I also think that he should do it in private and not publicly strike a man. So that's my spiel on it. But thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you. I want to thank you all for your brilliant responses. I think that they are brilliant. I think one thing that I want to take out of this is the fact that a man was very courageous in that circumstance, that in his head, nothing else mattered. That is very important. It sends a signal. So there are two signals. One, of course, is violence, which he condemns and say, I'm sorry for. But he did not apologize for the fact that he stood up for something bigger. And I always say that family is over everything. We all know that. And so for a man in that moment in his life, and for everything at stake, to stand up boldly like that, like Michelle said, and Dr. Lockhart said, I have a lot of respect for that. And I think that, yes, there are many ways you can protect. That's why I said hating is not part of it like that. But you see, it's the gesture. Is the gesture. He in doing the gesture, if let's say you even want to buy flowers for your wife, right? You may pick in your eyes, you pick the right flowers, but to her, it might not be the perfect flowers. But what matters is the thoughts that you wanted to do something good. So yes, the protection part that he exhibited is what I salute, and is a message that will resonate forever. That if you're a man, regardless, you have to do something when you feel like your reputation or your wife's protection, your wife's reputation or your family reputation is at stake. I think that our world is making it politically correct for everyone to say, oh, it's okay, it's okay, not to say anything when somebody makes a joke. If somebody makes a joke about men, sometimes we don't care about our looks, so you can make fun of us. But if a man's wife, it's a serious thing. You see, again, this is very serious. A man's wife, men do not play with their wife, especially if they love them. Men do not play with their family, excuse me. And so you have to understand something about a man and his family. So for anybody who wants to mess with someone's family, I think that you have a message here that it may go wrong for you. So don't even try it. Leave people's family alone. Give them that space and their respect, regardless of what you think of them. Leave it to them. And I think that's what I wanted to say. Captain Mike, I know you made some powerful points. I know you have to go. You didn't see the joke as anything that trivial. But what I'm saying, anything health-wise, you don't mess with it. But if you want to say, give us your last words before you leave, that'll be fine, Captain Mike. Your mic is muted again, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I mean, we live in Chicago. The young lady was shot the other day for a car, killed in a gas station. I'm sorry, I just can't get wrapped up on Will and Jada and Will stuff. Two millionaires at an award show worth millions of dollars. I'm sorry, I can't get wrapped around it. We need to protect our ladies, and here in Chicago, husbands, it's a tough job. Yeah. And sitting in a room filled with other millionaires and Chris Rock making a joke about my wife, I don't know if that's, like someone said, that's not a life or death issue. We can have a talk about it later, but I'm sorry, I can't get wrapped around it.
Do you think that you should be able to not even go on stage, but at least do a gesture to say, you know what, I don't like this gesture? Should you show a gesture at least?
It kind of like now, if I say something that offends you, hey, Mike, we'll talk after the show.
Like, I don't mind. It's me. It's me. But it's me though. But if you say something about my wife, I'm right here. If you say something about my wife and my family right on stage, right live, I'm going to say something to you. I will say something to you to let you know that that's not a go area. I'm not going to wait after the show.
Yeah. Hey, leave that alone.
If it's me in person, I don't mind. I'll take anything. But again, I think that's that instinct for a lot of men. I think things have changed now. Things have changed. But you know, I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in, of course, maybe it's because of where I grew up, or maybe not. But what I'm saying is that I feel like a lot of men, some men don't believe what I'm saying too. Some other men have opposing views. But a lot of men, they don't care. But if you say something about their children or their wife, you may lose your life. Because
that's what I mean. We're speaking about losing lives, and we're talking about two millionaires who and another millionaire made a joke about them that has no effect. Now there are women out there who do have alopecia, who don't have the resources and the designers to wear $1,000 dresses like Jada. I can't get wrapped up on that, man. It's too much in this world. You know, global warming, starvation, people with no cars, no job, no food, living on the streets. I can't get wrapped up. I'm sorry.
Global warming, no food, all of that is important. But family is above all of that. If you don't have family, you can't do nothing about global warming, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Because
take care of your
families. you can't go try and deal with hunger or fight global warming or have a peace of mind to do any global project, fight for humanity, if you have a broken family, or if you don't have a stable family, or if you're coming from a very broken place. And as humans, family is everything to us. It's what makes and shapes us to become what we become. And so that is always a paramount to everything else, and anybody, presidents, world leaders, billionaires, they pick family over everything. And that is a natural cause, but it's not always the same. So, brother, I know that, you and I can go on and on with this. There are opposing views. You're not the first one. I had it 2 nights ago with 5 brothers. We were going at each other. Everybody was opposing me. I think like maybe I'm the only one that has this view. I may be crazy, but I like this craziness. It's my personal purview. And my brothers are watching me now. Pastor Ate, I know you went at him. Yeah, Pastor Ate, feel free to be this conversation, man. Feel free to chime in. But Captain Mike, I know you have to go. Maybe we'll find another time to delve into this, because this is very, very important. I really appreciate your time and spend a little extra time on this for us. Okay, so that was it. Let's go back to the conversation. I mean, the reason why we're here tonight, want to remind our audience that it is the impact of the family structure on children's development. Very, very important. How does the family unit affect children and affect children's development to become ultimately the men and women that we want them to become? And so you're welcome to this special edition. Today is the last day of the family structure that we have treated the entire month of March. And I hope that by the time we're able to get through this, you will pick something from it. Feel free to be part of this great conversation. I want to introduce our guest, and let's start with Mrs. DEIDRA Jackson. Mrs. DEIDRA Jackson became a student. She was a student of healthcare, and I'm sorry. Let me take this back. Mrs. DEIDRA has become a student of healthcare, growing her career in the paver vertical. She is passionate about developing solutions that address the growing healthcare needs. As VP of Customer Success at Bright Healthcare, DEIDRA devotes her time striving to positively impact the graduate challenge of healthcare, the impact of quadruple challenge of healthcare, affordability, access, and quality of care. Because of time, I tried to make it snappy. I tried to summarize it. She is a mother of 4 beautiful children, married for 16 years, and a proud dog mom. She's also a local activist and has been supporting a lot of local organization and community projects. Mrs. DEIDRA loves to travel and love outdoor games. You are welcome to the Progressive Mind Show officially. And that was the one we had was, the teaser, so thank you for accepting our invitation and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great. And then next to her, before her, is Ivory Banks. Ivory Banks, you're welcome to the show. Michelle?
Yes. So, excuse me, everyone. So Miss Ivory Banks was born and raised in Chicago's South Side in a two-parent household, along with her two siblings, Isaiah and Evelyn Banks. Her parents were both devoted teachers of CPS, which is known as Chicago Public Schools, and she attended high school at Hubbard and afterwards left to pursue her higher education at Knox College. Later on, she decided to add her first list of accomplishments, graduating from Webster University in Missouri as magna cum laude with a master's in healthcare administration. She has worked and lived in St. Louis, Missouri for many years until moving back to Chicago right before the pandemic, and currently works for an insurance software developer as a business analyst. In addition, she is developing her very own travel business known as Ivory Experiences, where she envisions curating a travel experience that you will remember and want to tell your friends about. So welcome, Miss Ivory, to the show. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
A pleasure. And then Attorney TAIWO, this man, when we first spoke, I did not know that he had this so many accolades just because of his humility. The man is, I didn't even know he was an attorney because he didn't introduce himself like that. And even when he sent his bio, he didn't state that, but he's the chief executive of the Power Parenting Company, LLC. He pioneered social development law in Nigeria and arguably Africa, arguably Africa in particular. I'm sorry. He's also worked as he's also worked on a project called S.A.FE. He co-founded S.A.FE. Actually, he works and trains children with USAID, UNFPA, SOS Children Villages International. He's also worked with the rule of law and anti-corruption, just to mention a few. He describes his childhood as bountiful baskets of dehumanizing abuses. He is lived a life of someone who had struggled with child abuse and had triumphed and turned that into positivity. He's written articles and poems which has been respectively viewed and visited by 104,705 800 and 37,720 people from over 189 countries of the world. He's the publisher of the S.A.FE family comics books as well. A lot of accolades for Attorney TAIWO, but because of time, I will save the rest. Visit his website, I keep calling him Dr. Attorney TAIWO. Once again, welcome to the show. This is your second time. We are privileged to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight, and I look forward to a great and rewarding conversation.
We have lastly Dr. Lockhart, and again, Michelle.
Yes, absolutely. Certainly, last but not least, we have Dr. Carrie M. Lockhart. She is a West Side Chicago native, born and raised near Humboldt Park. She attended the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy in Aurora, Illinois, before matriculating to Northwestern University, where she graduated with a BA in psychology. She also became a physician via Southern Illinois' Med Prep program in Carbondale, ultimately enrolling and graduating from SIU School of Medicine. Dr. Lockhart's medical career included positions in several community health centers on both the west and south sides of Chicago. When at Rush University, she had an open academic position in a pediatric office. Dr. Lockhart accepted the position to blend her commitment to serve with love and skill as a teacher and mentor for physicians in training. While there, she also served as the Pediatric Department's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee Chair, was recipient of the 2021 Excellence in Humanism Award, and voted the 2021 Outstanding Medical Student Educator. She is also a member of the ACGME inaugural DEI Officers Equity Matters National Initiative. In addition to that, Dr. Lockhart is also a board-certified pediatrician and a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. In addition, she is also the vice president of the Cook County Physicians Association, holds a leading diversity, equity, and inclusion certificate from Northwestern University, and is a member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So welcome so much, Dr. Lockhart. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you
Microphone.
for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, great. So let's talk about what that is. Let's talk about the family structure. Let's talk about how it impacts children's development. So first of all, Dr. Lockhart, and I know this is something right up in your alley. We'll come to the rest of the other guests as well. But please help us. If you can connect, can you help us give us a correlation between family structure and children's development in a minute, if you can give us that brief description or brief correlation, if you don't mind.
I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Can you give us a
When you say
connection? Yeah, how does the family structure connects or relates to children's development? First of all, is there any connection there?
So certainly, having a healthy family environment is going to be the most key, ingredient for development. We know that children learn, there's that saying, do as I say, not as I do. And so our kids are developing and learning their experiences about the world from what they see from us. And so, when we are, from the very early age, 2 months old, when we're looking at developmental milestones, what they are learning is because of how we interact with them, right? And so, having, I don't want to suggest that if you have a family structure that's not stable, that somehow relegates your child to, poor developmental outcomes. But certainly having a loving family environment and an environment where you're interacting with your child and talking with them, engaging with them, where there's some, safety in the home, really matters. We know that it matters for long-term health outcomes. So there's something called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, that really speaks to this development, but really long-term health outcomes. And it is based on having some really traumatic experiences before the age of 18. And some of those questions are, having your parents divorce, having, being a child who experienced sexual abuse, living in the house with a family member who struggle with substance abuse and things like that. And those things we know have a long-term effect on your health. Even if it doesn't run in your family, it can increase your risk for for poorer health outcomes. And so what that's doing to, our bodies, and by extension, some of the developmental things that kids are, we're wanting to see them hit those milestones. There can be some effects there, but primarily it's the environment that they are being reared in. And so to give you like a very concrete example, one of the things that we see correlated with a developmental milestone for speech, for example, which is a shocker to many families when I talk with them, is screen time. And we've noticed that kids who are spending a lot of time in front of screens can struggle to develop those speech milestones. And so if you are, for lots of reasons that are not related to family values or anything, having to entertain your children with screens because maybe you have to get dinner done when you get home, or you have to get work done when you get home. Those things, we know the structure of, if you're a single parent and you don't have someone to entertain them and you're using your TV, things like that can really affect development. So, the more stable and support you can have in the home environment, for kiddos who don't have, developmental delays because they're born with some issue, you're going to see developmentally them moving along those milestones more on time. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Attorney TAIWO, does a man or woman's ultimate outcome in life, connected to how his or her family structure was?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think science has now proven that the dominant temperament in the world is environment. That's the dominant, because at the end of the day, when we were born without concepts. Whether I'm black, I'm white, whatever I believe about myself was sold to me and I bought it. So for me, family is critical. The environment in which the family is also existing is critical to the development of children. I'd like to quickly call our attention to a documentary by CNN. That documentary was released a few years ago, and they were looking at a set of triplets that were separated at birth for different reasons. And these triplets went their different ways. One way or the other, fate brought them together again when they were already fully formed and old. And there were three different people trying to actually do life together. Unfortunately, that documentary made it abundantly clear that one of the errors the triplets made was to think that they were the same. And it was found, according to that documentary, that there were three different people. And the reason why there were three different people was not genetic, was basically in reference to who raised them. As a matter of fact, one of those triplets committed suicide, and everything is traceable to how they were raised. So the CNN documentary concluded that life, a lot of times, depends on the kind of examples that we experience, the kind of things that we saw. So for me, family is critical to development of children. Now, children don't do what you say, they do what you do to a very large extent. So the book that I read says, train up a child the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart from it. But Abraham Lincoln, in trying to interact with that particular scripture, said that for you to train a child the way he should go, he said you will go there first and take the child with you. So which means that children behold us. Children do what we do. So for me, to a very large extent, you found that in the society today, most people who are in crisis, who are not able to hold stuff together, you know, when you trace them very well, you go back, you see the fact that they are from dysfunctional homes where the family structure is not strong. And so I'll round up with what happened in Iceland. In Iceland, which is a small country in Europe, their young people were messing up big time. They were on drugs. They were hooked on all kinds of negative activities. And so the state of Iceland began to ask the question, what could be responsible for the way these young people were behaving? They were interested in the root causes of the way they were behaving. And so in their findings, they found that the children that were messing up most were children whose parents, whose family did not have time for. So what did the state do? The state decided to create a program where parents were incentivized for spending more time with their children. And they performed that experiment for 5 years. 5 years after, things changed because parents now spend more time with their children. So for me, family is foundation. I say that today our world does not have terrorism problem. Our world does not have marriage problem. We don't have any leadership problem. I think we are dealing with only one problem. It is mismanaged childhood manifesting in dysfunctional adulthood. That's what we're dealing with. If we can fix childhood, I think we will fix adulthood. And that's why we need to focus on the family. Thank you.
Oh, that was powerful. Powerful said by Dr. Lockhart and Attorney TAIWO. Mismanagement of childhood reflecting in dysfunctional adulthood. That was powerful, right? If I quoted you correctly. Michelle, I don't know if you have.
No, I think that it's that everybody just made some very powerful statements. I think we know that the child or the family produces, and we're talking about the nuclear family here, right? So I know that there's families that come in different forms, right? And different types of units. We're talking about the traditional nuclear family in this conversation specifically. But I was just going to say that I think that foundation of society is the family unit, is the family unit, and the children that is produced from that environment. And it reflects in society. And I think the example for Iceland that Attorney TAIWO gave us was a very good example of that, of the impact, if we focus more on family, the overall ripple effect as it reaches out to the community and society as a whole.
Thank you. I don't know if you have any question for Mrs. Deidra or Ivory.
Yes.
But okay.
I do actually. Yes. So, Miss Ivory, I have a question for you. I know that we talked early in the show about Will Smith and things like that, and now we're talking about the family structure. How do you think his children were impacted, and that family was impacted by that event? You know how sometimes we go home, we have those conversations with our children, right? What are your thoughts on how maybe they responded to that on the way home?
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's part of why I was saying that, sometimes violence is not, always, it's not the way to go. It's never to me. Maybe sometimes it's necessary, but to me, I think it's a good, I guess, a good question is, is it just as important to choose how we defend our family, as is it just as important as defending our family? When I think about those children, yes, he defended his wife, but you're in the public eye. Your children are in the public eye, so you have to understand that your actions are going to have a direct effect on them. So I think that one thing I learned about my nuclear family, growing up, I grew up in a 2-parent household, thank God. And it wasn't my biological dad, but my stepfather. He was my father. He stepped in. He raised me, my brother, and my sister. He was a supportive mate for my mom. And one thing he showed me in his actions was how he chose to defend us. Like I said, if violence is necessary, then sure. If you ever got to resort to that, then hey, that's what you had to do. But I think that my dad, he thought about the consequences of his actions, of how it would affect us as a unit, as a family. But I do feel like that Will Smith's kids are, they're strong. I think that they've been involved in the limelight for a long time. I know that they will work as a family unit to get past this. They're going to have some negativity that might come their way, so I'm sure they're having that conversation of how to make sure that they protect each other during this hard time. But to me, if you're going to defend your family, how you defend is just as important. Just as important.
I agree.
I think it's important, and to speak to your point, Ms. Ivory, is that we as parents, and I think Attorney TAIWO mentioned this earlier, children don't do what you say, they do what you do, right? And children who may have grown up in a violent household where they've seen their parents fight physically or get physical and things of that nature, they are more likely, right, to repeat that. And I'm just curious, Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Deidra, I would love to hear your input on this. I know you're married. I know you come from a family. We all do. So I wanted to get your input on your thoughts of seeing a child or their children witnessing that, right? What do you think, or what was going through your mind from a parent's perspective if you were in that position, or if your it was your family in that position?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michelle, I think it's really hard to speculate, right? there's a lot of assumptions that would require us to be placed within the household. So what was going on? What did they see of their mom? How did they see their exchange and of their mom and dad? What led them to that moment? I think all matters. And I think, you know, what is going on with their dad will also color that. If it was, you know, that he was really defending his wife from, you know, the dangers, or or showing the world the displeasure, or of trampling on his wife and them in that way. Quite honestly, I think Chris Rock was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of things that's been going on. And I don't follow celebrities. I don't follow their stories. I think they're people. And it's unfortunate that they have to be on display. But I think as it relates to the children, if their dad had a moment of weakness and fracture, and that's showing up at home, that now was on display, that now will have a ripple effect on them, that can, you know, send them into, you know, reaction mode and protection mode and shutdown mode, or whatever it can do. You know, or if it is, you know, where it was a valiant, you know, a chivalrous thing that they saw their dad do, which whatever is coloring their perspective, I think is more indicative of what it would be. I do think that it also matters, you know, the macro versus the micro of their household, and what shows up is, you know, really the most indicative thing there.
Thank you so much for a great input, Ivory, Mrs. Jackson. It's 7:04 p.m. Central Time, and we are talking about family structure and its impact on children's development. If you just joined us, we touched a little bit on the Will Smith and Chris Rock situation. Please feel free to chime in at any time. We would give out the call-in number. It's 815-277-5047. You're listening to the number one community building show in the world, The Progressive Minds. Here is where we build our community through these dialogues, and you are part of it. So feel free to chime in at any time, through comments or via the phone number that I just gave. Now, based on the last comment that Mrs. Deidra Jackson just made, how important is teaching children emotional skills now become, right? Because I think traditionally, you know, we all teach kids, you know, go to school, you know, basic, you know, training. But I think that I know that you know, a lot do this type of training, this emotional training, but I think more so now, that will be very significant. So, can you tell us how significant would that be, and what are some of the ways that parents can start teaching young people emotional balance and how to react and what not to react, and even respecting people's emotions and stuff? That's a follow-up question for Mrs. Deidra, and then Dr. Lockhart, you can respond to that afterwards.
That's great. I'd love to tee Dr. Lockhart up. Just some thoughts that I have. My initial thought is, you know, we are called as parents at this point to teach our kids resiliency, right? And what does that mean? I read a quote. I'm going to say, I'm going to age myself and say that I read the quote maybe 18 years ago. I can't remember who said it, but it was, the illiterate of the 21st century will no longer be those who cannot read or write. It will be those who cannot unlearn and relearn. And I think, you know, at the speed for which our kids have to learn and develop and be prepared for the world, and, you know, understand these messages that they're going to be bombarded with, understand the difference of their family structure versus, you know, a family structure that's up the street, you name it, how to deal with teachers, how to deal with adversity, all of the things that we have to, you know, we get this, you think at first when you're having kids that you get this time with them, this long time, and it's you count the days of when you're putting them to bed and how long you got to do that. Then then at some point they're 18, and you realize you only have this amount of time to put this amount of information into them. And I think it boils down to resiliency and teaching them, you know, that your reality is your reality. And do you guys remember, and I just want to say this and I'll pass it off, but do you guys remember that that little toy we had where you put the it was you squeeze it and it goes to a new picture, click 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 with everything. And so if I take it out and I can put a new one in, that's what we have to teach our kids, that our lenses are. And it's based on how you were raised and what we put in you. And someone else is going to have a blue lens, and someone else is going to have a yellow lens and a red lens. But it's important that you know that you have a lens and your lens matters, but it's the lens. And how do you be resilient to recognize the other lenses that are out there in order for you to grow, evolve, and, you know, be resilient and, you know, as a person.
Awesome. And so she set you up, you know, properly for this specific one. So how do you do that? What are some of the skills that you can use, the techniques that you can use to literally imbibe these values into little ones, Dr. Lockhart?
I'm going to keep going back to the basics. I think it's tempting to want it to be lightning in a bottle, but we have to model what we want our kids to be. And so if we want our children to be able to, you know, be resilient and have emotional maturity, I love so much of, you know, what Miss DEIDRA said. You know, we have to, the way we teach them is modeling it. And so what that look like, you know, potentially the discussion after, I think it was Sunday, right? You know, and you know, Will Smith and Jada's household in a healthy way would be the discussion around, you know, what he said in his apology, like, you know, what I did was wrong. And, you know, maybe after having done some work with, whether it's his therapist, with, you know, whomever is the, you know, the go-to person who has the skills to work through, you know, what happened there, you know, why, you know, early on, you know, Mrs. DEIDRA made a really important point that, you know, was she really protecting her from what? Was she in danger? But the reality is, you know, when you're in trauma, you know, I have a good friend who says, you know, the chipmunk looks like a face-eating bear. That's what your brain is telling you. So to him, his wife looked like she was in danger. And so really teaching our children those skills, it's not about hiding the flaws. You know, if you are a parent, I'm a parent adjacent. I help rear my niece and nephew with my brother-in-law and my sister. And we wish we could always get it right. We wish we could always be our best selves, and we're not going to be. And our kids don't want us to be that. It sets them up for unrealistic expectations. But what we can do is, when we fall short, we have a real conversation about what it looks like to do better next time, how I got there, and maybe how I avoid it. And so it really is lots of practice working on our stuff so that we pass better habits on to our children. So a lot of talking goes on in our house about things. So if my niece had happened to see that, it would never occur to her that she could just slap someone because she got upset, because that's not how we communicate. That's not how we operate in our home. It would have been shocking to her. And, you know, we grew up and, you know, we got spanked, not a lot, you know, we were good girls, but, you know, my sister and brother-in-law have, you know, tried to really do that differently. And that's been a learning curve. But so you learn so that then you can teach your children that. And when things are going to happen, but then you really lean into those moments when you are not your best selves, when they are not their best selves, and talk about emotionally how we can, you know, handle that better. So when your kid is having a meltdown because they don't want to do homework, it's tempting to get into this battle with them, you know, just to give you an example, and force them to do their homework. The same friend says emotions are data, they're information. And if we look at children as being very smart, they know how to tell us what they need. And instead of like getting into a power struggle and saying, no, you're going to sit down and do your homework, take the time and say, what's up? What's going on? Why, you know, you have homework. Why don't you want to do it? And starting that type of communication, which, you know, is not common in our community. We are very used to our kids doing what we say and not having agency to say, I don't feel like it right now, and that being acceptable. Or I'm mad at you right now, and that not being seen as disrespectful. We really model for them what we want them to be. And then when they give it back, we have to be comfortable, as long as they're not disrespectful, comfortable saying, it's okay for you to tell me that you don't like that, but this is what we have to do now, for example, And so it really comes down to us as the adults having dealt with our stuff, because then we can show up for our kids and help them learn how to work through their stuff too. And that's how we teach it. And this is not a judgment. Parenting is literally, I don't know a job harder. And I went to medical school and residency as a cancer, navigating cancer. And I still don't think there's anything harder than being a parent. I don't think our culture sets families up to be successful around the things that, families need, and so childhood is tough because families don't have what they need, the time, the space. But I think as much as we can work on our emotional maturity, we can really pass those tools on to our kids when the rubber meets the road and they are throwing their applesauce across the floor because they didn't ask for applesauce for, dessert. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lockhart. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Lockhart. Am I correct? Okay. Just want to make sure.
You got it.
All right. Thank you so much. It's 7:13 p.m. CST. We are still talking about the impact of the family units on children's development. Again, feel free to chime in. We've had a few comments on Facebook so far. We're live on Facebook, of course, and on YouTube, also on Instagram. No, not Instagram, Twitter. And then being carried live on MyStar radio station. MyStar radio station is a Pan-African radio on the East Coast. It's a 24-hour reggae and Afrobeat. You can tune in right now. The show is live on there. It's a 24-hour 7, like I said. We're working on other syndications. We also cross-promoting on MyStar, Afrostar on Facebook. That's the name, Afrostar. It used to be MyStar. It's transitioned to Afrostar radio station. Again, it's an online radio station. And we're working on other syndications. As I mentioned, very soon, you're going to be seeing and hearing Progressive Minds on major platforms. We're also very excited to be organizing the second edition of the exchange ceremony. Exchange ceremony is basically bringing the diaspora together to celebrate our humanity, our culture, and our beauty. It's going to be done this year at the Rainbow Push. We are very excited to be honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson in a very beautiful African cultural fashion, something you've never seen yet in Chicago, at least in the city of Chicago. And so we want to urge all of you to watch out on our platform, all Progressive Minds social media platforms. You see the Save the Dates flyer, which is June 4th, Saturday, June 4th. Mark that date. Is going to be beautiful. We actually carving a beautiful taste of Africa, right? So you will come there and have different cuisines from all the African communities here in Chicago, not just African, but the diaspora. So you're going to see a little bit of Caribbean and African American and Latinx. It's a mixture of cultures coming together. So it's going to be a beautiful moment of celebrating Black diaspora in general. So keep that date, June 4th, right here in the beautiful city of Chicago at the Rainbow Push Coalition. Michelle has been, and I and our team have been working hard on that. Michelle, you want to give a little tidbit on what's to come on that?
Yes, I'm super excited. We're going to actually have some live performances, live cultural performances. One thing about the Progressive Mind Show and the Culture Exchange is we are cultural advocates. So this is a day to really embrace our culture and really love one another, love on each other, and celebrate. We'll be honoring, like you said, the Honorable Jesse Jackson Sr. For his accomplishments. And we're going to have something that we're going to do that we've never done in Chicago. And so that's kind of a surprise. You have to come and join us. And tickets actually go on sale this Friday, which is April 1st. So look out for that on our social media pages as well.
Absolutely. And as we speak about it, I think we have the flyer up here. That's a Save the Date flyer. Yeah, we have them here. So mark your calendars, man. This will be a very powerful combination of African culture, African American, Caribbean, Latinx. We're even going as far as Brazil. You're going to see authentic, organic Brazilian dance, African dance, Caribbean dance. It's going to be as a moment of healing and celebrating our culture as a greater Black community. So this one you don't want to miss. Very soon we'll be updating the flyer with our special guests, our honorees, and all that stuff. So stay tuned to our website, our social media platforms. If you go on the progressivemindShow.com or the PMSshow.com, we'll be updating that as well. So thank you for listening. It's 17 minutes past 7 p.m. We're still on the topic for today. My brother, Pastor Artes, is going to call in and debate the Will Smith situation with me again. Brother, let's continue after the show. This conversation is not going to end. And this fight is between you and I. We'll deal with it after the show. But if you want to call in and contribute to the topic, please feel free to do so. Whatever it is, feel free to contribute to the conversation this week. We are very excited to have these experts, these community folks who are looking into the subject matter with us. Michelle, I don't know if you have a question, but I wanted to take a quick break. When we come back, we will continue the discussion on our conversation today. This one will be very quick. We shall be right back. Welcome back to the show. My name is Alinko. I'm here with my co-host
Michelle.
And we are on the same subject as you've heard earlier: the impact of family units on children's development. Mr. TAIWO, you've done a lot of work in this space. When you teaching both parents and children when it comes to the family units, what has been some of the main missing link that you have identified whilst teaching, whilst embarking on your project in teaching, parenting and all of that? Because a lot of times there seem to be a missing link. Parents don't get their children don't seem to get what their parents are trying to talk to them. So what have you identified as the missing link, and what has been your approach in navigating this or mitigating this?
Thank you very much, Alinko, for that question. I think the first thing I want to say is that I think the main missing link is the fact that we forget that things have changed completely. I'm 52 years old, and I was raised at a time in Nigeria where seeing the TV started at about 4 p.m., where we did not have access to the internet, where we had what was called drug abuse, where pornography was only hardcore pornography, and it was not available everywhere. You needed to travel or look for it if you wanted to watch it, where the kind of music that were released were sanctimonious, where a lot of sanity appeared to be to hold sway in our daily lives. But things have changed completely between when I was raised and today. Today we talk about Gen Z. Gen Z is from the year 2012 to the year from the year 1997 to the year 2012. Then you have Generation A, Generation Alpha, from the year 2012 to the year 2025. Now, all of these children are digitalized children. They are digital native, and those who are trying to raise them are digital aliens. That is, these children are socialized digitally. With the advent of COVID accelerated digitalization, globalization. Now, the world began to exist on our palm all of a sudden. It has been existing on our palm before now, but it began to exist more regularly because we were able to do a lot when we were supposed to be locked down online, and people became billionaires. Zoom, for example, the Zoom platform, earned exponentially as a result of COVID. Billionaires were coming out of the Silicon Valley as a result of COVID lockdown and the interruptions that it brought. So the world has changed completely. Unfortunately, today's parents still want to relate to children as if they were relating to children when they were growing up, the way they were related with growing up. And so that has created a lot of issues. I love what Dr. Lockhart was saying. A child reluctance is not disobedience. A child can show reluctance. A child can show disapproval. But in our culture, by virtue of the fact of the way we were raised, we considered that what a child was supposed to do is obey, command and obey.
Yes.
And things have changed. So today's family seems to be operating at the level of we are Alice in Wonderland. We forget that the only thing that is here existing, in the way we were raised, is the belief system we carried today about it. Things have changed completely. Even the definition of things. If you want to go into what is a family now, this program will change focus. If you want to even define who is a woman, Jackson Kutenji was asked, who is a woman? She couldn't answer the question. She said, I can't answer that question. So as simple as it is to some people that this is who a woman is, some people is not as simple anymore. Who a child is, who a human being is, has changed. Because people are now saying there's something called transable. People are now saying there's something called transspecies. So things have changed completely. So if you want to raise children at this time, I think the missing link is that those who are trying to lead the family today forget that they need to humble themselves and learn from the people they are trying to lead. They want to force things on them. I'll be writing a series of articles which I titled, Excuse Me, Please. I want to raise spoiled children. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 is on LinkedIn. Because I am trying to interrogate that thing that you call being spoiled. When a child is free, expressive, without being rude. Because we forget that children have 3 fundamental characteristics. Number 1, a child is a person of worth. Now, recently, Elon Musk overtook Jeff Bezos as richest man in the world. All of his money, close to 300 billion, cannot buy a child in a legal market. So children are people of worth. They are not going to become people of worth when they become an adult. Now, number 2, children have sense of judgment. They can think. They process, they think, they express their views. Number 3, children have the power of judgment, the sense of judgment. They have the power of choice. Those are the 3 fundamental things we need to train in children. But unfortunately, those are the points of conflict today. And as long as those things continue to be a point of conflict, there's going to be crisis. That is why today, young people are falling out with their parents. They are not accepting the belief system of their parents. They are rejecting it because the parents and the family leaders are trying to foist what they believe down the throat of children. And let me quickly conclude this way. No human being receives anything by force. Not one. Because we are being of reasoning. And I'll round up with the quote of Josh McDowell. Josh McDowell is a trainer, work with young people. He himself had experience with being sexually molested when he was growing up. Before he got some help, he said, truth without relationships lead to rejection. Rules without relationship lead to rebellion. Discipline without relationship leads to bitterness, anger, and resentment. But I'll tell you this, you can pray all you want, but if you don't build a relationship with them, that is children, forget it, they walk away. So the most important thing is we have to humble ourselves as people that are supposed to be instructing children at the level of the family, at the level of the school. Understand that this time, we have never lived in this time before. So we do not know what it really means to be socialized digitally. Those who are trying to raise children now have never lived in this time before. We never lived in this time. At the time we were being formed, we were analogs.
Yes.
Now, so analog is slow. That is why we abandon it for digital. Digital is faster. The children of today are faster in their thinking, faster in their learning, faster in the way they do things. We are analog, but we bring analog mind to rule the life of those who are dealing with digital, who are smart minds. So how is it going to work? What the analog needs to do is to descend from the Mount Olympus of feeling that I know it all just because I'm older than you. I know it all. To come down and learn from young people. Today, even in the family, the language has changed. There's a way young people can be speaking in the family, and you are going to be there. You are not to hear anything they are saying because everything has been codified in their world. Because every word has a language. Every culture has a language. Pop culture has its own language. So your children can sit before you and sell you. It is when people come in to carry you and a way that you are going to know what is going on. You will know that you are the one being negotiated about in all of this conversation they have been having. Thank you.
Wow, that was very powerful. I don't know. Yeah, well, you're getting a lot of applause for that. So let's give you one. Wow, that was powerfully said. I don't know. You all want to chime in on that. But I'm sure. I don't know if you have any comments to that. Go ahead.
Yes, I would actually. There's so much to say, but I think I'm hearing that one, communication is the foundation to a healthy relationship with your child. Yes, but in order for one to have to do that, they have to push past their own adverse child experiences, right? And become immature and heal themselves to be able to relate to their children. I'm a parent.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I'm a parent too, and I feel like the most important thing for me is one day I'm going to be held accountable by my child, right? I'm going to be held accountable, and I'm going to be held in account for everything that I did when he was under my supervision as a child, right? And I think of that all the time, and I use that and keep that at the forefront of my mind every time if I have to address the issue or anything, just how I handle him. Because the truth is, children are people first and foremost, right? They have their full cognitive, faculties in place, being born. It's just being developed, right? But they're still their own person. And I think that our generation, I'm a millennial, I'm kind of dating myself, but our generation, we're a hands-on generation of parents, and we're a generation of educated parents who may have had those adverse childhood experiences from our parents and don't want to transfer that down, right? And so that's why you hear a lot about therapy. It's a big thing in our age group is therapy and making sure that whatever childhood traumas that we experience, we try to help resolve and heal those wounds so that we don't transfer those things onto our children. And every day you just have to be circumspect in your walk and in your relationship with your child, and take that time to pause and not, always be in the heat of the moment with things.
Thank you so much.
Please, can I quickly, just 1 minute? I just want to corroborate what Michelle just said, because a sick person does not donate blood. No matter how willing you are to donate blood, once you are sick, it's difficult. So for me, we need to pay attention to ourselves. I just want to corroborate that. It is who we are that will reproduce in our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And 7:30 p.m. We are still talking about the children, the impact of family units on children. Again, feel free to chime in. The call number is 815-40. No, I missed it. Let me go back to the number. We will go to the number in a second. I wanted to get some comments that I saw here on the screen. I want us to read some comments first before I give out the number. We've had a couple comments here, and we would like to get some of them out. Again, it's 30 minutes past 7 p.m. In the next 30 minutes, we'll be wrapping up the show. And so I want to thank my guests so far for great inputs. We have this comment right here from Johnny Woods, very powerful presentation, Dr. TAIWO. This one is from Napoleon Ivory. Critical thinking skills are very key to becoming functional adults. I learned them early from my parents. Michelle, you want to take care of the other comments? I know we have a couple of them here.
Oh, absolutely. We have Philamia, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm so sorry. She said, I think the toughest challenge that any child has is to how to manage fear and trauma. Healthy ways to cope with challenges is essential. I think that's very, very important as parents in teaching our children coping skills. We also have, oh, you did this. Okay, and she also said, also, every moment is a teachable moment. Sometimes we are so task driven that we don't take the time to talk children through what they see or even the disappointments they experience during the day. I think that definitely goes back to what Attorney TAIWO talked about with relationship
Yeah.
with your children. So that's a great, great comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the comments that have come through so far. We have this one earlier, which is from Kertong Old Guy. I hope I got the name right. I did like to table this thought, or that you all look at the incident from this perspective. Will Smith was acting out of displaced aggression. Many people are saying that he was protecting his wife's honor, and as such was justified. I disagree with the stance that Will was right for what he did. Everyone who ever watches the Oscar knows all the history in the last decade or so have been comedians. They have cracked jokes on the celebrities in attendance for years. Will and Jada sat at, and I think we're missing the continuation of the sentence. But brother, thank you so much for bringing your point in. My brother says, my brother, don't worry. Okay, that is I was earlier. This hello to my favorite cousin D. This is from Richard Nichols. And he again says my favorite. Okay, that was so he just typed the name out. Looks like we have a fresh comment coming in from Carla Hammond Crowder. I think we should never underestimate the power of the relationship between parents on the impacts to our children. They learn from us firsthand how to treat others based on how we treated our partners, including how to resolve conflict in a healthy way. Powerful points. Really appreciate it, Carla. The next one is great insight from all the panelists. Love this. Carla, once again, thank you so much. And the number I wanted to give out is 815-277-5047. 815-277-5047. If you want to call in and share your opinion or suggestion, comments, feel free to do so. Ivory, I wanted to ask you that when Dr. Attorney TAIWO was giving his presentation or his viewpoint, of course, all of us were nodding, but how is what he said played out in your own life when you were growing up with your parents, with regards to how you perceive their actions and how it actually influenced you growing up as a young lady, and how you see the world today?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. You know, my parents, their actions were very powerful to me.
Mm.
How my mother carried herself as a woman, how my father protected the family. And then, they taught us some of their traits. I mean, they passed their, they were goal driven, had to accomplish things, made sure that they didn't rely on people. And so they kind of taught us that as well. So it's kind of funny because, in the same token, how important family is, in the Black family, we still teach, I was taught, you don't rely on people, you have your unit. And even so, you strive to just make it on your own. You strive to just to succeed, to achieve. So, but yeah, I mean, my parents, I feel like they had a great impact on me, and my siblings. But at the same time, it's like, even though they were educated, hardworking, driven, articulate, at the same time, it's like they were still battling outside the world.
Yeah.
The world was also raising us, you know. So and it's hard to keep your children from that. It's hard to not only be a parent, to teach your kids, and then trust that when they go out in the world, they're going to remember the things that you taught them, and choose their understanding over the world.
Right.
And you know, he made a good point that, you know, you have to we can't I'm not a parent at all. I'm not a parent yet. I don't know if I'll ever be one, but I definitely agree that, you know, we do have to realize that how we were taught, that was structured so that we can survive in the world at that time. So you can't be a parent and say, well, you know, this is what I used to do, you need to do this as well. That's not the world that they're in. They're not surviving in the same world. So
two quick or three quick follow-up quick questions, and I want if you can please give me like straight responses. You talked about, so the Attorney TAIWO talked about how we disconnected from the analog and the, you know, IT or techie, you know, kind of society today. Did you experience that with your family? Were there conflicts where you realize that they don't understand this technology thing that you're using and how you operate and how that influences your thoughts, and they were trying to use that analog old school kind of thing? Did you experience that personally?
I did. As younger, when I was growing up, it's like I went ahead and just like my parents said, do this. This is the way you do it. But as I grew and I understood the world and the different things I learned, you know, the world takes you in a different place now.
Okay.
And it's funny because I literally just had a situation, or I guess like I would say slight disagreement with my mom about, you know, a business venture. And her thing is, you know, she's like, you need to make sure you have a job with a pension. And I'm like, you know, people my age, we're not talking about pensions. We're not trying to survive. People are trying to survive off of getting billions of Bitcoin or, you know, cryptocurrency or investing in stock. But, you know, that's how I had to realize, well, that's how she grew up, you know, that she was a teacher for years. So yeah, she has a pension. There's things that we can't use the same thing.
Exactly. So today's generation, they're not thinking about pension. They're thinking about making a lot of money now. Okay, good.
Yeah, like, you know, we're thinking about retirement. You know, she instilled that in me. Like, I do need to prepare, but not the same way that you went about it.
Okay, good. So we have a caller coming through, but I know who this caller is. Caller, please give us a second. I want to go through. Can you turn on the device you're listening to us or watching? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I got it.
Good. So give us a second. The other quick question for you is, you said the dad provided security and all of that. Now let me see if I can, you know, push you to the wall a little bit. You think that, now feel free, yes or no, feel free to not respond. You think that based on the security that your dad provided and the ways he did it, you think that he may hit someone if they try to say something bad about you or your mom? Now, again, feel free to respond to that or not. Miss Ivory?
I'm so sorry. I was on mute. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question one more time? Sorry.
My question is, you talked about how your dad provided security and how you admired that as a child. You felt safe. You felt safe in that environment, right?
Yeah.
And he provided security. And I'm sure that he did that in several ways that you admired. Now, what I'm saying is, would you say that the type of security he provided include or has the potential to look like someone who would hit somebody if they said something bad about you, actually said something bad about you or your siblings or your mom? You think that protection, that security that he provided looked like something he may have the potential to do if something of that sort would have happened?
No. I'm going to say that my father would have definitely defended us, you know, with violence if he had to, but, you know.
No, so thank you. It's good enough. It's good enough. You said he would defend you with violence if he had to. And so all I'm saying is that the instinct, so that's what I was trying to, the instinct of protect and defend
Mhm.
even if he said something bad about a man's family. Is what I was trying to get to. Again, not condoning the fact that you have to use violence, but what I'm saying is the instinct to even attempt that in a man is what I'm trying to get. And thank you for your response. I really appreciate that. Last quick question. You said you don't want to ever have kids. Is there anything that is this something that you got as a child growing up? Did you get this? Is this impact from your parents or your growing up as a child, or this is just a personal decision for you?
To be honest, I'm gonna say that it was a impact of things that I saw. When I tell you that my parents were teachers, I used to hear, they would come home and they would talk about the things they had to go through with parents, with parents of the children. It's just this world, someone said earlier, this world is not set up to support parents and to make them successful. I think for me, I'm not saying that I don't want to have kids. I'm just saying that, if God willing, if it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. But,
you're not looking
if I
forward
had a choice, I wouldn't raise this world is harsh on children. And teachers aren't equipped, and parents are, these new age parents, they are not equipped to handle. We're not, Black families, Black households are not talking about dealing with trauma. They're still not talking about it until we can recognize that, we've been through trauma. It was trauma just going through this pandemic. Children having to wear masks every day. That's traumatizing, like in its own way, not being able to go into work, being at home all day, changing up your whole schedule. But we don't, as African Americans, we don't recognize that we need to deal with trauma first. I don't want to pass my trauma to my kids. I mean, I definitely have dealt with it. But to me, it's something that I would like to be prepared for completely if I was to make a decision to bring a child into this world.
Very powerful. Thank you so much. You made a lot of impact on myself and a lot of people.
It's a very responsible position to take, honestly. I mean, and very responsible. And I'm just going to say that because there's some people really that should not be parents.
And
that's just the truth. So I really, really commend you for that, Ivory. Thank you.
Mrs. DEIDRA, thank you so much. Thank you again, Michelle. Mrs. DEIDRA, we'll come to you in a second, but let's take this caller. And I know you may have a rebut or a follow-up for Dr. I don't know why I keep calling him Dr. TAIWO, Attorney TAIWO. So Mrs. DEIDRA, please, if you can just prepare yourself after we hear from the caller. Pastor Ate, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Senna. Thank you for having me on, answering the call. I'm very, very grateful for your panel. Mr. TAIWO, very, very knowledgeable. Ivory, DEIDRA, Dr. Lockhart, Michelle, and yourself. You guys have put on a good show. Something really struck me when Dr. Lockhart spoke. She said violence is necessary sometimes. And that is one thing I've been saying for such a long time. Let us not cancel out every aspect of violence, because in order to get things done in this world, sometimes violence is a needed tool that has to be used. And sometimes the lack of violence is actually an error. So in defending people, I definitely don't condone violence. I was in the military myself. I've seen a lot of violence, but it is essential sometimes. But in most situations, it is not. So we shouldn't just let our emotions run wild and say, I'm defending this, I'm defending that, when there's no real threat, and then go and act on violence. Before I get to the family thing, I just want to say that keep in mind when we're talking about Will Smith's situation, Will Smith actually committed a crime.
Yeah.
He committed a crime.
Yeah.
Which was actually punishable by jail time.
Yeah.
And Chris Rock was actually having the LAPD or whichever police station that was close by asking him whether he wanted to press charges. Chris Rock didn't commit a crime.
Yeah.
But Will Smith actually committed a crime.
Yeah.
So let's just get that straight.
Yeah.
So going on the family, as we're talking about, and please, if you want to crucify me, crucify me. But a lot of my views are biblically based. So that's the spectrum I come from, or the perception I come from. Talking about the family, Mr. TAIWO was saying about what do we call a family now? The answer that I would say is it's the same thing that we've called it from time immemorial. The only concept we have of family is the concept that we've had before. One thing that the Bible says in Psalm I think chapter 11, verse 3, it says that if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? So it recognizes that there are righteous people, but the righteous people cannot even act if the foundation is destroyed. Our foundation in humanity is the family. It is the family. If there's a community, it's about families. If there's a city, it's about families. If there's a country, it's about families. And one of the things that is being destroyed at this time is the family itself. One thing I've said to many, many people is that there's no challenge in this world that someone with a good family cannot overcome. You can put any person in the worst situation, and any situation that you can throw at that person has a solid family. They can make the way out of that situation. And I strongly believe that. If we have that family that has already been established, that has already been a foundation, that has already been recognized as a mother, father, and children, and maintain that structure, that foundation, then the righteous will have a stand and be able to do something. But if that foundation is broken, as it is today, especially with the LGBT situation going on, with the single parenthood that's going on, with people choosing to be in those kind of situations, it is only going to continue to further destroy our nation, continue to destroy our communities, and continue to destroy our children. Keep in mind, the biggest reason why we should have families is for children. It's not essentially for men and women. It is for children, for them to grow up in a structure that will give them the tools and the equipment and the mindset, the morals and the values that they need to grow up to be responsible, contributing men and women to the society. If that foundation, if that family is not a good one, or it's not a well-structured one, it's going to be very hard, very hard. I'm not saying that people can't develop outside of a traditional family structure, but it's a lot harder than it is when you're brought up in a traditional family structure with a good parent, with good parents, a good mother, and a good father. I think there are a lot of things that we really need to look at to maintain or to regain that family structure. And I believe if we do so, we'll see the result.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Ate, for your input. That said, the conversation will continue. The wahala will continue after this show. We would, and I like that everybody is saying that, violence is an option when a man is trying to defend his family, but don't use it. So if a man chooses to do that, he bears the consequences. He will take responsibility of his action, and I'm sure when it comes to that will. But the thing that I find also interesting is that a lot of people are now saying, well, we also like the fact that he showed a gesture of protection. A lot of people are not saying that. And that's where I think, Pastor Ate, you and I don't agree. And that's where I disagree with a lot of people. But that's okay. These are proposing views. I'm saying, I'm giving kudos for the gesture and I'm condemning the violent act. But it looks like what your stand is, you were just condemning the violent act and not looking at the positive side of it. And I can talk to you like this because you're a brother. So, but let's continue after here, okay? When you respond, we only have a few minutes to go, so let's continue after here, my brother. Pastor Ate. Okay, so it looks like we lost him. Thank you so much, Pastor Ate, again for your contribution. We have other comments. Oh, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was on mute. Sorry. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, we'll talk. Thank you once again. And so let's another comment just came.
God bless you all. Bye-bye.
God bless you too. So another comment that I wanted us to look at is this one. I thought it was funny because it was directly to someone who was just saying this to Miss Ivory. He says, I know Miss Ivory will change her mind one day and bring 5 kids to this world. Good job.
No. Not 5.
Well, that was, I thought it was interesting what he said. This is Gideon. Gideon said, well said, Pastor Ate. Thank you, Gideon, for being a contributor to the show. Well said, Lawako Dito. And this is from, the world has promoted and equated strength to aggression and anger and completely lacks understanding and compassion. This is from Autry Nichols. Thank you for your comments, last comment, and then we'll come to Miss DEIDRA. I know that Dr. Lockhart had a point. I mean, I think you may want to respond to what Pastor Ate was saying earlier, but let's take Mrs. DEIDRA's comment quickly, and then we'll come to you. But before that, there are generational traumas that will not be addressed as long as we, the collective, don't look to provide institutional support that supports the Aboriginal family. Well, thank you, Bree Bennett, for that comment. Mrs. Deidra, you want to, state your comment that you had before, and then we can go to Dr. Lockhart.
Sure. I don't. I think one of the things that I'll stay and picking up a thread of the conversation. I don't know which one. I'll just start from my notes
Mhm.
without a prompt. But I do think, it's very important when we think about what the family is. I think, Taiwan mentioned that, right? So what is the family?
Mhm.
I do think it's important that we think about the generational structure of the family. And it's important that we do not lose the essence of that, while we do need to bring back the intactment of the nucleus, the family of the nucleus. So I have to tell you that many of these comments, I've had several cousins that have had comments and are watching. I grew up in a family where my mother's father is a twin. And when my grandfather passed away 2 years ago, there are 94 of us sitting on his one seed. And that goes down to his great grandchildren. His twin brother was the exact same way. He raised his family in Gary, Indiana. My grandfather raised his family in Chicago. And there's a lot of nested families within the big, broad nest of the family. I think that that's super important. We lose a lot of our identity, and it happens too much, within our Black families, that Big Ma passes away, and, there goes the culture, there goes the connection. And I think it's important to recognize and bring fuel into that as well. I don't think that a family, even a nucleus family, which I grew up in, and my mother and my father had great relationships with both of them. I still go on road trips with my dad to this day, father, daughter. I'm the only girl, three brothers. And so while that was important, what was also important was that extended nest of the family, because a family can't see themselves without a mirror, be it a church family, be it, their, biological family, and the extension of it. And I think all of that is important.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Deidra. Dr. Lockhart, I don't know I'm sorry, I don't know why we have an issue with our set today. Please bear with us. Okay. All right, here we go. Dr. Lockhart, you may probably have a point, but before that, Michelle.
Yeah.
Guys, please pardon Michelle. I think she's coming down. She's a little bit under the weather today, so you see her screen going, on and off. She's.
I take it notch.
Oh, Attorney TAIWO, you picked that up, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I know. Thank you for bearing with me, everyone. I'm coming down with the healing. I know that we have a DEI specialist here on the panel, and I think it would be great to hear her perspective, which is Dr. Lockhart, about the caller that we had come in earlier. I know that we are talking about the traditional, nuclear family, right? But I just want to hear from you, your thoughts, because I can say this. I know of some adults who had a nuclear traditional family who may not have become the most successful adults, but I also know adults who turned out amazingly great entrepreneurs, very ambitious and excellent parents, but had a very traumatic childhood, came from a broken home, may have even struggled with their sexuality. So I just wanted to hear a little bit from you, to speak to that, to just bring a little diversity to the conversation.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to speak on. For TAIWO's comment, I was just gonna, I loved his, everything he said. Just really briefly, I was gonna comment. My nephew, when he was about 5, I think it was 5 or 6, he was had just started school. His birthday's late, so he was in kindergarten, and he just turned 6 maybe, and he had to color in the lines. And so, just to tell you, kids have agency. Like they are not these empty vessels that we just pour all of our things into. You have to color in the lines. And my sister was telling him, you got to color in the lines. They take off a point. And he literally turned to her and said, I'm not a color in the lines kind of kid. So they know what they want and need. And so I just to echo, am I saying right, TAIWO's sentiment about we have to, get to where they are and not come to children like they don't know anything, and we just are here to teach them everything. I love that about kids. It's why I'm a pediatrician. I learned so much from them. But I absolutely wanted to comment on, I think it was Mr. Bennett's comments, because they, you know, pinged my ears a little bit hard. Because I think, you know, I'm a Christian, and we make these connections with things that are not connected. And so, you know, the dismantling of the family unit, however those families look, certainly impact, you know, what happens with our children. But that is not at all anything to do with the LGBTQ plus community or not having a nuclear family. I perhaps may be the only one on the panel who came from a single parent home. My mom, you know, amazing woman that she is, raised 3 amazing daughters, my twin sister and my older sister. And we are all, you know, amazing women, if I must say so myself. And by the grace of God and family and uncles and amazing grandfather, I didn't lack for a father figure. So I think, you know, it's really important for us to really tackle the issues that we have to know what they are. And when we are pointing to things that are absolutely not the issue, we do ourselves a disservice. We do families a disservice. We do children a disservice. I serve all types of families, LGBTQ plus families, families that are man, woman, 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 man, man. And I have never met a family that does not love and want the best for their children and whose children do great. And none of those were because of who the parents were and if they were partnered. And I know that's going to ruffle feathers. But again, I do the work that I do because God allows me to do it. So what I say is because God has put it in my heart. And so we cannot be vilifying people and say that that's why things are falling apart. We are called to love. We're called to have compassion. We're called to protect, you know, children and do what we can to give them the best possible chance. But we cannot be vilifying people and that is the reasons for the failures of our children. There's some real key things that we can be doing, and none of those have anything to do with single moms or the LGBTQ plus community. And I will unequivocally stand on that. And so Mr. Bennett, I'm, you know, happy to have conversations about that because I'm out here doing the work, and it sounds like you are too. So we can make things better, but we can't be vilifying people.
Well, that's it. Thank you. We have we have about a minute to end today's conversation, which has been great so far. But being a DA again, a quick follow-up for you, Dr. Lockhart, is having dealt in your line of work, what would be I would say some of the prime problems or disconnects that you've noticed when it comes to parenting? I mean, parents and children, and maybe your advice on how to mitigate this.
TAIWO hit on so many of them, and really the key, I think it's the communication. And I think someone put it in the comments, you know, the conflict resolution. I think we want to really work with teaching our children how to resolve conflict. You know, I wanted to qualify, you know, my comment when I said sometimes violence is the answer. The violence is the answer when your physical safety is in danger, you know. And I you know, I think that's rare, you know, and even when it's in danger, most people don't resort to violence because I think that's just not the nature of most of us. So teaching our children conflict resolution, because what we saw on Sunday was inability to do that for whatever reason, whether it was trauma, whether it was embarrassment, whether it was feeling like this is the only way to protect his wife who was being harmed, you know, with words in that setting. And so I have consistently talked with my young patients about that when they're getting into trouble at school a lot, and you know, having conversations from a really non-judgmental way about, you know, well, what made you so upset about that? And I think if parents can we always say being curious, and I get it as a parent. You find out your child has been in an altercation and it sounds like it was something very ridiculous, but really trusting that those feelings, it's information. And so when you can calm yourself down and then sit with them and really get to the root of why they're behaving the way they are, then you can start to work on, well, what do we do next time?
Okay.
And then showing that. So communicating, asking a lot more questions and less telling. Our teenagers don't want to hear us telling them what to do all the time. Sitting with them in their struggles and just being there, And then again, I'm always going to say modeling. So much of what we teach them and bridging that disconnect is how we learn to show up in our struggles. Because when they see us upset at our best friend or upset at our partner, and we can say, we talked about this and we worked it out. And, when we have a disagreement in our house, we try to make a point now to apologize in front of my niece and nephew. Okay. So that, that maybe we didn't handle that well, but we are okay to say, I'm sorry, I didn't do that well. And so really modeling that, but also just giving them space to talk about what it is instead of that was dumb. Why did you do that? Now you've ruined your blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Really just being vulnerable. And that's hard as a parent. It's hard because you worry about their future. What does this mean for them? Are they going to get kicked out of school? Is it going to be a record? And so if you can, get past all those scary things and know that that's not going to happen, then you can step in the space of I just want to listen and understand how you got to the point of making that choice so that maybe we can intervene next time and figure out what you might do differently to avoid making a different choice. And the more you do it, the more it becomes your innate response when they do something that inevitably teenagers are going to do because they're what we call prefrontal. They're not really making those choices with a lot of thought. And so they're going to, stumble. And you want to be the soft place to land when they do that instead of tough love,
Wow.
Soft place to land. That was a very, very great, tender way of putting that. And it's so very important. Thank you, Dr. Lockhart. And thank you, everyone, really.
Thank you all. I think navigating through this fine line of taking away, considering your children's feelings, their thoughts, and how they see things, and also having in mind that folly lies in the mind of the child, and also knowing that you have to navigate that folly or clean up that foolishness by instilling what you think is good as a parent, because you've been in this life a whole lot of time and you've seen a lot, and you think and you see that their future, you see the future before they see it. You are foresight, they don't have that, and trying to navigate that is can be very, very difficult in parenting, and so I think that we all can pray for more grace and keep learning and teaching each other and having these conversations so that we can become better people, because they are our future. And thanks for reminding us, Attorney TAIWO, that, the old school, we are analog and they're digital. So there's a need to find a balance between analog and technology and all of that. Yes, thank you so much. So we'll have to take, I wish we had time so we can go into trauma, Black people not dealing with trauma and how we carry it to our families and how it affects children and how they project it when they're adults. Very, very important. Africans do that too. Africans, I think we are the worst when it comes to trauma. We don't talk about anything. Look, typical African, you go through a divorce, okay, find another person. You just had an accident, okay, you heal, okay, move to the next thing. Trauma, we don't talk about trauma. No, forget it. So it's worse in the African community, and I think that we can do a good job in that space. Let's put all this in perspective, and please go ahead and give us your closing remarks. God willing, we can schedule another day and come here and delve into the issue. Doctor, let's start with Michelle. Before we go do our closing remarks, I don't know if you have any comments. You're muted.
Sorry. I was just going to say thank you, everyone, the panelists, just for being so transparent and so open to selflessly pour into our audience tonight and drive that discussion. I think that for me personally, as a parent, it has helped me. I'm sure our audience feels the same way. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you, Michelle. Now let's go forward. Let's go to our panelists. Who would go first? Michelle, I'll let you do that.
Sure, absolutely. So, Mrs. DEIDRA Jackson, we would love to hear from you on closing remarks.
I guess my closing remarks would be thank you so much to all of the panelists, and thank you for everyone that was listening in. I think I'll quote, one of my uncles that's on the greatest commandment is to love. And I think that that's what our calling is. And, I count it such a blessing to and an honor to be the mother of my children. I think that they chose me in our situation, and how they manifest. I think we are only souls and beings that choose to be here. The Bible calls us but a mist. And, as our raindrops come and they're supposed to land as they land, then we dissipate. And that's what I believe our life is. And so I think it's very important for us to be mindful of our raindrops and what we're creating and instilling, and, the ripple effect of those droplets as they land in the water.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. DEIDRA Jackson. Next will be Miss Ivory Banks.
Yes. Of course. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for your opinions. I put your points, the facts that were laid out. Thank you for those that are watching, that commented. I'm gonna say that one thing that I've always tried to remind myself: never let someone else's actions change how you would normally act. And I say that because, in this world, people are different. People are going to handle the same situation differently. People also have the right to speak their mind. That does not give you the right to, be violent towards someone else. I think that we have to remember that what we're protecting ourselves from. Words are just words. And, that whole saying, sticks and stones may break your bones, words never. We need to remember that. We don't want to add trauma. We don't want to add violence to what we're already dealing with in this harsh world, So I leave it, just be yourself, make good decisions. That's it. Make the best decisions that you can make for you and your loved ones, and understand that family is key. Family is key.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, DEIDRA. No, sorry, Ivory. Michelle?
Yes, and we would love to hear from Attorney TAIWO as well. Your closing remarks?
Whoa, what a night. Just as I thought the show was just starting, but we're
yes.
Well, I've enjoyed myself today, meeting these great minds and having this conversation with you. I think that I want to agree with Ivory Banks that having children is not a fait accompli. I believe that the real joy of having children is not bringing them to this world, it's how they are raised. So if you are not sure of the kind of future you want to give to children, you don't have to bring them to this world. As a matter of fact, when Hitler was born, I don't know what the world should have done, whether to rejoice or to be sad. But the problem was not with Hitler. The problem were with the people who raised him. He slaughtered 62 million people. That was 2.5% of the entire population of the world. Now, the question is, would the world have been better without Hitler being born? I leave that to you to think about. Or would the world have been better if Hitler was differently raised, like Joseph Stalin, like this guy Ted Bundy, all of the people that have troubled our world? Would the world have been better if they were not born, if their parents knew that they were not ready to take responsibility and they never gave back to them? That is critical. Number two is the fact that the world has changed completely. We need to recognize that and speak to that. Now, number three is the fact that if you want to be the parent of one, you must first be the parent of all. We must see this world beyond the shores of our own family. If you want to guard your own family alone, you want to protect your own family alone, your family is not going to exist in this world alone. So it is for our own selfish interest, it is important that we show interest in other people's children and be ready to raise them, give them a hope and a future so that our children can coexist with them in a beautiful world. And lastly is the fact that we need to invest, by example, in soft skill. The research has now found that for you to succeed in life, Harvard University has now told us that you need 80% of soft skill, resilience, negotiating skill, interpersonal skill, 80%. And you need only 20% of technical skill. Jack Ma has now warned us, but in the year 2030, 800 million jobs are going to be lost to machines. Jack Ma is now saying that the selling point in the 21st century, in the Internet of Things, fourth industrial revolution, is things that machines cannot do. Those are the things that will make a difference. So we need to de-emphasize what we are teaching children in countries like Finland, Singapore, and the rest of them. They've stopped all of this subject-focused teaching. They are focusing on project. They've even stopped grading because they are trying to prepare these young people for life. So I think we can go on and on. It's painful that we're not looking at trauma because I tell you, as Mr. Alinko has noted, we don't discuss it. You have a car crash, somebody slaps you, something happens to you, you have a troubled marriage, you've just had a divorce. They just believe that get over it. Just keep going without knowing that you don't just, if you have physical wound, you don't just get over it, you treat it. But deeper are wounds of the mind, the wounds of the soul, than the physical wound. As a matter of fact, physical wound do leave scars. And you can see the scars, they don't go beyond the scars. But the scars of the wound of the mind, they are eternal, except there's divine intervention. We need to pay attention to it.
Yes, it really it hurts me that but we will come back on this. It's a promise. We'll come back to this particular subject, and we would focus on trauma and the old adage, the community of the village raising children, like the village. What was the adage? Misha, can you help me?
The village.
It takes a village. It takes a village to raise children or kids. I think that we'll focus on just that too. Hopefully, we can get the same set to handle that, and there will not be any Chris Rock or Will Smith. Nobody, mess with that. It will be just our show. So, Dr. Lockhart, please, you have the last words for tonight.
Thank you again for having me. This has been a really rich discussion, and I actually wrote that down, that it takes a village. And I think continuing to, embrace that and embrace someone, correcting your child. I have come to believe that at any given point, we're all doing the very best that we can. And so that hopefully gives us the opportunity to extend grace and empathy. And as I put in the chat, that does not mean that people don't have to have accountability when they are doing something that is not appropriate, but having empathy and understanding that people act out and respond in various ways for various reasons. And so we can have some empathy for that, but, holding people accountable. And so I think when we talk about families and, trauma, which I do hope we have that conversation, because I think so much of how we show up and what we think about protecting our family, what we think about raising our families, what we think about being a village. Some of that is very much peppered by what our trauma has told us. And I think if we can get a handle on that as a community and really start to have real open conversations about that, we can really start to be the village that our children need us to be and that we need to be for each other. So I'm just grateful for all of you all and your insights. It's been really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, it's a promise. Before we close out, again, I want to remind everyone, this is coming up June 4th. Save the dates. It is the African or the Black diaspora, is the global Black community coming together. We're going to be exchanging our cultures. So this is a moment of celebrating, connecting community culture, Saturday, June 4th, 2022. This summer, it will be nothing. This summer celebration of the exchange ceremony is nothing you've seen, man. Watch out, because it's going to be a lot of dynamics. And again, this is curated for us to celebrate and heal as Black people, to interact and to accept and respect the differences in our cultures. And so the exchange ceremony started in 2019 when it was 400 years, and also the year of return. We've gone past the year of return. It's now beyond the return. So watch out for the honorees and special guests that are going to be at this special event, June 4th, this 2022. Mark your calendars. Really want to thank everyone for being on the show, especially my guests, our guest, for being here. Well, we have some last comments. Michelle, you want to run through them real quick?
Yes, we have Uletta Jackson, great discussion points. And I just wanted to share that with everyone. So thank you for your comment.
Okay, and I think we have another one here that says, "Are the fear of people to speak out, which leave eternal visible scars." This one is excellent conversation from Chitrina Bracy. Thank you, Breeze EL. Great conversation. This one is from Carla Harmon. "If we have not that, we are but a sounding gong." Well, that's powerful. Thank you, Oteri Nicole. Such a wonderful panel and an overdue topic, much needed. This is, thank you so much for your comment. Lawako says, "Still, you don't want to create some weak personality in them either, but still find a way." Yes, that is the dilemma. That is the difficulty. But thank you so much for sharing. Napoleon Avery said, "The greatest commandment is to love our neighbor." And the last one is, "The world has promoted." No, I think we've read this one already. So thank you once again, to all our audience, for staying with us and for sharing the feed. Please keep doing that. Please keep sharing the feed on Facebook and YouTube. This is how we promote and build our communities, and that's our mantra. We build communities through these dialogues, and we actually extend the conversations to some of the events that we've mentioned to you and others that are to come. So please keep supporting the Progressive Mind Show. We are non-for-profit. The PMSshow.com is the website. If you go on there, you can make a nice contribution donation to us. It helps grow the show and sustain the programming. We are here every week, every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Also on our social media, go and follow, share with the folks. This is the only platform that encourages and promotes these type of conversations freely. You know, we come here, we spend 2 hours and delve into the things that matter to us. So please keep supporting us. And I'd like to close by saying this. Now, give Michelle your last words, but I'd like to close by saying this. When I was much younger, I had 2 experiences when I was in high school. There was one incident where and in Ghana, most of the high schools are boarding houses, and one of my seniors it was an assembly, it was a dining hall, so all of us, I mean, everybody was in the dining hall, and apparently I had done something, you know, I had broken a rule, and when you broke a rule, the seniors would punish you. You know, the punishment is in different ways. So he had called me, I wasn't showing up, I was my naughty self, you know, young boy, I was doing my teenage things, 15, 16, 14, thereabout, I'm not sure. Here is the incident. I was punished. There's a culture there where they say to weed the grass. They punish you to weed the grass or to cut the grass. And you do that literally with a cutlass. Here they call it machete, but we call it cutlass. So I had gone to sharpen my cutlass, very, very sharp, so that I can be very effective, right? Because there was a huge chunk of grass that I needed to cut because I was naughty. So I was about to do that. And so I was sharpening my cutlass while, you know, so when I came to the hall, apparently he had been calling my name, trying to call me out, you know, that this is the guy who, you know, is whatever. So I showed up late, and to him, so he called me up. So people were like, "Oh, he was trying to call you." So I went upstage, and he was like, "Oh, you're the guy? So why weren't you responding when I was calling?" Mind you, I was holding my cutlass ready to go do my my project. And he hit me so hard on the chest, like he hit me so hard because he was annoyed. Like, how dare you that I'm the prefect and I'm calling you and you're not responding. My next reaction was to throw because I was holding the cutlass. I mean, my next reaction was to do that. And thank God something came over me and I didn't use a cutlass. Because if I used a sharp cutlass to defend myself, it would have been a different thing. That is one scenario. That's one scenario. There was another scenario of a friend of mine, my age group, my mate, who had an altercation with a junior. They went into there was a physical altercation. My mate had a knife on him, and he
Whoa.
defended himself and stabbed the junior. He stabbed the junior about 14 or 11 times.
Hey.
So he collapsed. This is a true life story, and he collapsed. Guess what? He ended up in jail. My
Whoa.
friend in school, and we were about to write our final exams. If some of my mates are watching this, they know this is a true story. So here is the point I'm making. Using judge being emotionally strong. Strength is not what is in the physical. Strength is not what you see on the outside. It's not the 6'10" or 720 height, whatever it is. It is not the muscles. It is here and here. And so it's important that we grow these children. We train these children to be emotionally strong. Emotionally and mentally very strong, because that is what you use in critical situation to determine your life going down the hill or going up. And so sometimes, and not sometimes, this is the core of humanity. I think be a man or woman, being emotionally strong and emotionally and mentally strong is super, super, super important, because it can be a defining moment in your life. If you have a big destiny and you have supposed to go somewhere, you're supposed to be somewhere, be at the top of the pinnacle and change lives, that small decision or the issue of mental weakness or emotional lack of emotional strength or mental strength can be a very costly decision or moment in your life. So I just wanted to add to this conversation that we had based off my own life experience. On that note, again, want to thank you all for being part of the conversation. Michelle, please share your closing remarks. No, you said the closing remarks. You did, Michelle. I always want to make sure that I don't miss that. And so again, we really want to thank everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Brother TAIWO, Ivory Banks, Mrs. DEIDRA Jackson, Dr.
Thank
Lockhart.
you all.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.